My ex created a fake scandal to ruin my reputation, spreading lies online. I gathered proof and took him to court. That was 3 months ago. Today, he's begging me to drop the lawsuit. Man, where do I even start with this mess? 3 months ago, I was living my best life. New job at a marketing firm downtown, cute apartment with my golden retriever Max, and finally feeling like I'd moved on from the worst breakup of my life. Then my ex decided to nuke everything from orbit. So picture this. I'm scrolling through Instagram on a Tuesday morning, sipping my Starbucks Pike Place like any normal person when my phone starts blowing up. And I mean seriously blowing up, like someone had just announced I was giving away free concert tickets or something. Texts, calls, DMs on every platform you can think of. My heart's already racing before I even read the first message. Girl, what is this about? From my best friend Sarah, with a screenshot attached that made my blood run cold. There it was. A fake Facebook page in my name, complete with my photos stolen from my real accounts, claiming I'd been embezzling money from my previous job. Not just any previous job either, the nonprofit where I'd volunteered for 2 years helping kids with reading programs. The post had this whole sob story about how I'd stolen thousands from underprivileged children, and how people needed to be aware of this scammer. I'm staring at my phone like it's about to explode, watching this thing spread across social media faster than gossip at a small-town diner. People were sharing it, commenting on it, adding their own theories about what kind of monster steals from kids. My stomach dropped to somewhere around my ankles. The worst part? It looked legit. Whoever made this fake profile had done their homework, used my college graduation photo, my job history, even knew details about the nonprofit that only someone close to me would know. And there was only one person who fit that description. My ex, Derek. Derek and I had dated for 2 years, and breaking up with him was like trying to escape quicksand. The guy couldn't handle rejection on the best of days, and when I finally worked up the courage to end things 6 months ago, he'd gone full psycho. Not violent or anything, just that creepy, obsessive kind of crazy where he'd show up at places he knew I'd be, create fake dating profiles to try to match with me, and send these long, rambling texts about how we were meant to be together. I'd blocked him on everything, changed my number, even switched gyms because he kept accidentally running into me during my morning workouts. I thought I was finally free of his drama, but apparently, Derek had been cooking up this master plan the whole time. Update. Hey everyone, thanks for all the support in the comments. Just want to clarify, I never actually stole anything from anyone, obviously. This whole thing was completely fabricated. But here's what I'm wondering. Has anyone else dealt with someone trying to destroy their reputation online? Because what happened next was wild, and I need to know if I handled it right. The fake posts started spreading like wildfire through my professional network. LinkedIn, Facebook, even Twitter. Everywhere I had any kind of presence, people were messaging me asking if the allegations were true. My new boss called me into her office that same afternoon, looking like she'd rather be anywhere else in the world. Look, she said, sliding a printed screenshot across her desk. I know this is probably garbage, but corporate is asking questions. We need to get this sorted out before it affects the whole team. I felt like I was in some nightmare where everyone could see me naked, but I was the only one who didn't know it. Here I was, trying to explain to my boss that my psycho ex-boyfriend was catfishing the entire internet with fake criminal allegations about me. It sounded insane even as I said it, but my boss was cool about it. Thank God for small miracles. She gave me a few days to figure things out and get the posts taken down. Just handle it quickly, she said. These things have a way of snowballing. She wasn't kidding. By the end of that first day, the fake story had been shared over 300 times. Random people I'd never met were commenting on it, calling me every name in the book. Someone had even made a meme out of my graduation photo with "thief" written across it in bold red letters. I spent that entire night documenting everything. Screenshots, timestamps, IP addresses where I could find them. I'm no tech genius, but I know enough about social media to understand that this kind of coordinated attack doesn't just happen organically. Someone had to be actively pushing this content, probably using multiple accounts to make it look grassroots. The next morning, I did something I'd never thought I'd have to do. I hired a lawyer. Marcus Webb looked like he handled this kind of garbage for breakfast. Mid-40s, expensive suit, the kind of confidence that comes from winning cases that seemed impossible. His office had those floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking downtown, and I remember thinking that if I was going to bet my future on someone, this guy looked like he knew how to play the game. Defamation cases can be tricky, he explained after I'd walked him through everything, but this is pretty clear-cut. False statements of fact, published to third parties, causing damage to your reputation and potentially your livelihood. The fact that it's happening across multiple platforms actually works in our favor. He leaned back in his leather chair, tapping his pen against a legal pad. The question is, can you prove your ex-boyfriend is behind it? That's where things got interesting. See, Derek wasn't the sharpest tool in the shed, despite thinking he was some kind of criminal mastermind. The fake Facebook profile he'd created used an email address that was almost identical to one I'd seen him use before, just one letter different. When Marcus had his tech guy dig deeper, we found digital breadcrumbs leading right back to Derek's devices. But the smoking gun? Derek had been dumb enough to use the same IP address he used for his regular social media accounts. Every fake profile, every coordinated share, every nasty comment, all traceable back to his apartment complex's Wi-Fi network. It was like he'd signed his name to every piece of evidence. Update. Okay, you guys are asking great questions in the comments. Yes, we absolutely had solid proof it was him. Better than I even expected. But what happened when we actually served him with the lawsuit papers? Let me just say, Derek's reaction was not what I anticipated. Anyone else ever seen someone completely melt down in a legal setting? Marcus filed the lawsuit 3 weeks after our first meeting. We were going after Derek for defamation, intentional infliction of emotional distress, and interference with business relationships. The dollar amount we were seeking? Let's just say it was enough to get Derek's attention real quick. The process server found Derek at his job. He worked at some tech startup downtown, which made his sloppy digital trail even more embarrassing. According to the guy who served the papers, Derek went from cocky to completely panicked in about 30 seconds flat. Is this about the Facebook thing? Derek apparently asked, which was basically a confession right there in front of witnesses. But here's where Derek proved he was an even bigger idiot than I'd thought. Instead of lawyering up and keeping his mouth shut, he started calling people. My friends, my coworkers, even my mom, trying to convince everyone that I was overreacting and that he'd only been trying to help people see the real me. Every phone call was another nail in his coffin. My friend Sarah recorded one of his calls where he admitted to creating the fake profiles, but claimed he was just telling the truth about what kind of person she really is. Marcus was practically salivating when Sarah sent him the audio file. Meanwhile, the fake posts were still up, still spreading, still making my life miserable. I'd wake up every morning and check to see how much worse it had gotten overnight. The stress was eating me alive. I wasn't sleeping, barely eating, and I'd started having these anxiety attacks where I felt like I couldn't breathe. The worst part was the isolation. Even though my close friends and family knew the allegations were bogus, there's something about seeing your name associated with stealing from children that makes people treat you differently. Conversations would get awkward, people would give me these weird looks, and I started avoiding social situations altogether. 6 weeks into the legal process, Derek's lawyer reached out to Marcus about settling. Apparently, Derek was starting to understand just how much trouble he was in. Defamation lawsuits can result in some serious financial penalties, especially when there's clear evidence of malicious intent and actual damages to someone's career and reputation. He wants to settle for nuisance value, Marcus told me over the phone. Basically, he'll pay your legal fees and remove all the fake content if you agree not to pursue damages. I laughed, actually laughed out loud. After everything Derek had put me through, after the sleepless nights and anxiety attacks and professional embarrassment, he thought he could just make a lowball offer and walk away? Counteroffer, I told Marcus. We proceed to trial, and Derek gets to explain to a jury why he thought it was okay to accuse me of stealing from children. Update, final update, and wow, what a ride this has been. So many of you have been asking what happened in court and whether Derek finally got what was coming to him. Well, let me tell you, karma has a way of catching up with people who think they can destroy someone's life without consequences. But the real question is, what would you have done in my situation when Derek showed up at my door last week, literally begging me to make it all go away? The trial was scheduled for early December, but we never made it that far. About 2 weeks before our court date, Derek's whole world started falling apart in spectacular fashion. First, his employer found out about the lawsuit. Turns out, using company equipment and network resources to create fake social media profiles and spread defamatory content violates pretty much every tech company's ethics policy. Derek got fired on a Tuesday morning, and by Tuesday afternoon, word had spread through the local tech community like wildfire. Then his girlfriend, he'd somehow managed to find someone willing to date him, discovered what he'd been doing. She'd apparently been getting weird messages from people asking if she knew about Derek's Psycho X situation, and when she dug into it, she was horrified to realize she was dating someone capable of this level of vindictive behavior. But the best part? Derek's own social media accounts started getting flooded with comments from people who'd figured out he was behind the fake scandal. Someone had connected the dots and shared the story on Reddit, and it had blown up in one of those justice-served communities. Derek was getting a taste of his own medicine, and he absolutely could not handle it. His lawyer called Marcus in full panic mode. Derek was apparently having daily meltdowns, talking about how his life was ruined and how he couldn't get another job with this following him around. The irony was so thick you could cut it with a knife. My client is prepared to offer full damages, plus punitive amounts, plus legal fees, Derek's lawyer said. He just wants this to end. The settlement offer was substantial, enough to cover all my legal expenses, compensate me for the professional damage and emotional distress, and then some. But more importantly, it included a detailed public apology where Derek had to admit he'd fabricated everything, a permanent restraining order keeping him away from me, and an agreement that he'd cooperate in getting every trace of the fake content removed from the internet. I signed the settlement on a Friday afternoon in Marcus's office, and by Monday morning, Derek had posted his public apology on every platform where the fake scandal had appeared. Watching him grovel in writing, admitting to everyone that he'd made up lies about me stealing from children because he couldn't handle our breakup, was more satisfying than I'd expected. But the story doesn't end there. Last week, Derek showed up at my apartment building. My doorman called up to let me know someone was asking for me, and when I heard it was Derek, my blood ran cold. The restraining order meant he wasn't supposed to be within 500 feet of me, my home, or my workplace. I called the police first, then went downstairs with my phone recording to see what this psycho wanted. He looked terrible, like he hadn't slept in weeks. His eyes were red and puffy, and he kept running his hands through his hair like he was about to lose it completely. "Please," he said as soon as he saw me, "you have to help me. Nobody will hire me. I can't even get a date because this whole thing comes up whenever someone Googles my name. I made a mistake, okay? I was angry and I wasn't thinking straight, but I've learned my lesson." I stood there listening to him beg, thinking about all the sleepless nights he'd caused me, all the anxiety attacks, all the professional embarrassment and social isolation. This was the same person who'd thought it was acceptable to tell the world I'd stolen money from children's literacy programs. "You didn't make a mistake," I told him, making sure my phone was still recording. "You made a choice. You chose to create fake profiles. You chose to spread lies about me, and you chose to try to destroy my reputation because your ego couldn't handle being dumped." Derek started crying, actually sobbing like a little kid who'd been caught doing something wrong. I know I messed up, but please, isn't the settlement enough? Can't you just tell people it was all a misunderstanding?" The police showed up while he was still begging, and they arrested him for violating the restraining order. As they put him in handcuffs, Derek looked at me with this desperate expression and said, "This is going to ruin my whole life." I looked right back at him and said, "Good, maybe next time you'll think twice before trying to ruin someone else's." That was a week ago. Derek's now facing criminal charges for stalking and violating a restraining order on top of everything else. His public apology is still up on social media, and every time someone searches his name, they find the whole story about what he did and why. As for me, I'm doing better than ever. The settlement money helped me move to a better apartment in a building with actual security. My reputation is completely restored. If anything, people respect me more for standing up to Derek's bullying. My boss gave me a promotion last month, partly because she was impressed with how I'd handled the whole situation. And Derek? Last I heard, he's working at a car wash and living with his parents. His ex-girlfriend posted something on Instagram about dodging a bullet and being grateful when someone shows you who they really are. The local tech community has basically blacklisted him, and his name is permanently associated with this scandal. Sometimes people ask me if I feel bad about how everything turned out for Derek. The answer is simple: play stupid games, win stupid prizes. He tried to destroy my life over a breakup, and now he gets to live with the consequences of that choice. The moral of the story? Don't mess with someone's reputation unless you're prepared to have your own destroyed in the process. And definitely don't underestimate how far someone will go to defend themselves when you try to paint them as a person who steals from children. Justice served, case closed, and I'm living my best life while Derek learns that actions have consequences. Sometimes the good guys really do win in the end.